You have to believe in yourself and believe in your vision when it seems insane. Like when you can see something and no one else sees it, a true leader will continue forward. I saw something that nobody else saw and turned it into reality. And that's what I think the true antithesis of a leader is in a business sense, is someone who can see something and believe in it, see it, feel it, taste it so much that they're willing to literally do anything and everything that they can to make it reality.
What up, it's Mr. X to the Z Exhibit.
What's up, guys? It's Andy Frisella.
This is your boy, Foul Monk.
This is Ryan Serhant.
This is Shingy.
Hi, it's Patrick Benjamin.
Sonia Sarbatani.
This is Director X.
Hey, everybody, I'm Forbes Riley.
Yo, this is Goldie.
This is Amberly Lago.
This is Chris Voss.
Michael Francis here.
Yo, this is Charlie Tuna. Hey, what's up? It's Billy G.
And you're listening to the Run
GPG
podcast.
Well, I'm going to go hang out and listen to David's next podcast from the Run GPG.
You might hear something you like. Peace.
Sean Whalen is an entrepreneur, speaker, author, and the founder of Lions Not Sheep, a brand and movement aimed at empowering individuals to live authentic and courageous lives. Whalen gained popularity through his motivational videos and social media presence, where he shares insights about personal development, mindset, and taking control of one's life. The Lions Not Sheep community emphasizes the importance of breaking free from societal norms and expectations, encouraging people to embrace their true selves and live boldly. Looking forward to talking about all that and a few other topics with the one and only Sean Whalen. Sean, it's a pleasure. Welcome to the Run GPG podcast.
Great to be here. That's a great intro. I like that intro. Well done.
Thanks.
You covered it well.
Quite honestly, I've seen what you've been doing on social media. I was mentioning that before we started recording there, and all that you're doing with your coaching program or your Lions Not Sheep community, I guess. And I think you're someone who's become popular and notable, especially on social media, for speaking that no nonsense message. And because of that, you also created that brand that we were talking about and a community. Yeah. And it's got a very motivational message that stresses, as we said, leading a life of purpose and fulfillment, which is a great message for everyone. So we're curious about the genesis and the evolution of that movement. But before we get into some specifics, I think it would be really good to get some context for our discussion. I heard some surprising details about your life before we started recording. But where are you from? Where did you grow up? And then the ultimate question is, how did your early life shape your current perspective on the world, because you're someone who's pretty vocal?
Dude, how long do you have for this podcast, bro? You just asked the entire biography. I grew up back east. I grew up in Washington, D.C., between there and New York City. I was always a hustler. I was always like the kid. I'd go hustle my neighbors to mow their grass. They'd give me $5. I'd pay my friends, $2 or $3 to do it. I'd keep the rest. And we all had money when the ice cream man rolled around. You know what I mean? So I've always been that wild entrepreneurial guy. I had a real job until my early 20s. I got fired from my real job at 22 years old, and I have never looked back. So for the last 22 years, I've been self-employed and running my own companies and my own businesses. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. I grew up in a single parent home. My parents divorced when I was young. And so I watched my mom struggle. I watched my mom work two jobs and really bust her ass to be able to provide a good life for my brother and I. And that was definitely, etched in my mind that I did not want to be in that reality, in my life. And so, I'm blessed today to be able to take care of my mom and have her enjoy a comfortable lifestyle through what I've done. So I definitely think that, you get to pick what you want to do with experiences, right? You can either harbor on the shit and go, oh, my parents split up. My dad was blah, 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 blah. I'm going to be sad and mad my whole life, or be like, no, that dude gave me a great example of how not to be. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go the opposite way. And I got 5 kids, and I'm going to be a great dad, and I'm going to be a present dad. I'm going to make a ton of money so that I can help people and, build a great life. So I definitely think that in 2 or 3 minutes, encapsulating, 44 years, it's a good hedgeway into a good conversation.
100%. Yeah, it's always a tough one to, put on the spot like that. But, like our early experiences do shape, our perspective on, what we're doing these days. And especially for entrepreneurs, it's always nice to hear, the backstory. You did touch on entrepreneurship, and I do want to talk about Lions Not Sheep in a moment here specifically. But First, I just want you to share your story, your entrepreneurial journey, if you could. What inspired you to start your own business? You kind of touched on it, but what made you think, okay, well, I got to work for myself here. Where did it begin for you?
I got fired from my last real job. I was hired as a sales manager, and I worked for the Marriott Corporation for a number of years, and I had this vision because I loved people and I loved engaging. I was a really, really, really quiet kid. And all of a sudden in high school, I kind of bloomed into this like social butterfly of sorts. And I saw my future being in this experience of like running a hotel and making $150K a year. And that would be like a really, really, really good deal. And I went out for this position of the sales manager, and they didn't give it to me. They gave it to somebody else, but then they hired me as a sales associate kind of a deal. And I blew all the records, like all the numbers out of the water kind of a deal. And long story short, I was essentially saying, hey, get rid of this person you hired and bring me in because I'm the best there is. And they ended up firing me. And that was the last real job that I had. And I'll never forget, I drove to a cemetery, not because it was like morbid or whatever, but I just happened to leave. I literally took my box out of my office, left, and drove. And I ended up in this cemetery. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, I don't really like being told what to do. Like, I'm really good at what I do. I know that I can make it on my own. And I had a brand new house and a brand new baby, and a new marriage. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm not going back. Like, I'm going to cut my teeth. I'm going to figure out a way to make this work. And I did everything from selling insurance to selling cars. I mean, all of the things. I started multiple different companies that never worked, that didn't pan out. You know what I mean? I've just always been a very, very, very big thinker. And a lot of times that works really well. And a lot of times that gets me in trouble because I think a lot bigger than, my pocket can afford or my bank, will lend me kind of a deal. But I think that's also a noble attribute, because if you look at the people that have done big things, the Steve Jobs of the world, they've been labeled crazy their entire life. You know what I'm saying? You look at Elon Musk, and damn near every day there's a headline news story about Elon Musk is stupid and he's dumb and he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm like, he's like the richest dude on the planet. Like, you got some dude making $60K a year writing a news report saying that he's dumb. I'm like, no, dummy, you're dumb. You know what I'm saying? Shut the fuck up and watch the guy. So I've just always been in that mindset. And as the years have gone on, I've learned, I've made millions of dollars. I've lost millions of dollars. I've been bankrupt, I've had the mansion. And so it's just been a really interesting experience getting to a place in life now where I'm like, what do I really want? And I'm 44 years old and I'm still asking myself that question. And it's a beautiful place to be because, there isn't a rule book to any of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, now we have the gram. I grew up when we had pagers and we actually had to go to a cell phone. I don't think, or excuse me, a pay phone. I don't think my kids, if I said, what's a pay phone, they wouldn't even know. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's a BlackBerry? They're like, I don't know, a fruit. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know this shit. So I'm old school. And nowadays with social media and the introduction of cell phones and all this other stuff, it's a wild experience out there. But I've just chosen to cut my own teeth and do my own deal. And so far in life, I've had a lot of stress with that. But at the same time, I live an amazing life. And I'm extremely blessed. But I just chose years ago to do it my way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I realized that nobody really has a blueprint for this. Like, everybody's got their own ideas and their own wins and their own stories and shit. But I'm like, where's the manual? You know what I'm saying? And there is no manual. And what I looked at is a lot of the really, really, really wealthy people just wrote their own fucking manual. They just did their own thing. And everybody told them, stop, don't do it. You're going to get your ass kicked. You're going to lose. It's stupid. And they were like, yeah, go fuck yourself. And they ended up like literally rewriting history. And so I kind of vibe with those people. Steve Jobs' biography is a great biography if you guys like reading. And I very much vibe with that guy because there's funny stories in there how he used to come into work and he'd fly off the handle. He'd throw shit. I mean, I don't throw shit in my office, but like, he was a nut job. Yeah. But it's really fascinating because the people that worked for him were like, dude, we knew that he was a genius and we knew that he would literally die before he quit. And I vibe with that, and I think that nowadays there's a lot of people that are scared to go out there and cut their own teeth and pave their own way, which is really sad because at some point in time, you're not going to have that ability or that option. You know what I mean? So I don't care if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, go out there, fuck some up, lose some money, make some money, figure out what you like doing. And, ultimately at the end of the day, like if you're happy, God bless you.
Yeah. Couple things there. First of all, thank you very much for your frank breakdown right, of your entrepreneurial journey. Very candid, so I appreciate that. Secondly, we had a long conversation with Patrick Bet-David actually about Steve Jobs specifically. Yeah. He was actually an entrepreneur. He got fired from his own company, which is fascinating.
Yeah,
because he was
started Apple. They fired him. The board booted him out, and then he started Square, which ended up being a complete disaster. Lost almost all the money that he made. And then ultimately, like, they had to bring him back. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, it's just interesting because, I mean, us nowadays, we don't realize this. We don't realize that, like, in order to get to the top, in order to be something, in order to build something big, you're going to have to get your ass kicked. It's just par for the course. Show me a millionaire, and I'll show you somebody who's gotten their ass kicked. Show me a billionaire, and I'll show you somebody who's gotten their ass kicked for a long time. You know what I'm saying? So I think once you get that in your mindset and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm good. I can fight my way through this. That's when stuff gets really fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The other thing that was interesting was, you know, you were referencing sales. I find a lot of very successful entrepreneurs, they do have a sales background. I was going to ask you about maybe a pivotal moment in your entrepreneurial journey, but it sounds like it was that point where you got fired. You ended up in at the cemetery. Would you call that the pivotal moment in your entrepreneurial journey?
No. You know, there's been so many of them. I will say this, though. One of the most memorable experiences that I had was in my late 20s, and I was buying I was building a golf course. I was buying 1,200 acres down in southern Utah, and literally, I mean, I'm in my late 20s, man, and I had like giant huevos. Like, I had giant ball. I couldn't lose. I was just like, and so I wanted a development partner because this was a $250 million development, the whole thing. So I literally got Jack Nicklaus to come out and look at the ground with me. I'm literally like 28, 27 at the time. Loved it, designed 2 golf courses for us. And then I was like, I want a development partner. I was like, I want to work with Trump. And my mindset was all of the Vegas guys, this is kind of right when he was building his tower, or building his hotel. All of the Vegas guys would go to Lake Las Vegas for their golf courses because that's where all the nice golf courses were. But it was actually a shorter helicopter ride from the Trump Tower to my ground in southern Utah. And so the pitch was that. And I've got all of the receipts, as people say, to, you know, back this whole thing up. Well, I don't talk about it a lot, but I found a guy who connected me with the Trump family. And it was a fascinating experience because I had prepared this whole deal and I had a meeting set up in New York, and we flew out there to go meet with them. And I never forget, as long as I live, I sat down with this guy who was a very like sophisticated investor. And he's like, what are you going to pitch him? And I had this binder with all of our stuff and our renderings and our things and the whole thing. And he's like, dude, you're out of your mind. He won't look at any of that. He's like, you need one page. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm pitching him this $250 million development, all this other stuff. And I literally drew the entire thing down into one page. And the funny thing is he never even looked at the one page. I'm sitting in Trump's office in New York City, pitching him this real estate deal and hand him this one page. And he kind of does one of those and he sets it down. Well, 2 hours later, you know, Ivanka comes in and the whole thing. And we ended up, striking a deal, and he came out and looked at the ground, and we were going to build this huge thing together. And then the market crashed. So I say that simply because if I think back to the pivotal things that have really shaped me, that was one of those meetings where I realized, like, the complexity is not always the reality. That's not always the best path. Simplicity is the best path. And you ask anybody in business, anybody who's doing big things, they'll tell you the same thing. We don't want more complexity and more craziness. We want simplicity. You know what I mean? A simple sales process, a simple sales team, a simple directive, a simple pitch, a simple product. And that's something that I think has helped me a lot, because every time I found myself in trouble, it's because I'm trying to do too much. I'm going way too complex. And so, you know, from a pivotal standpoint, that, as I'm thinking about it, is one of the more pivotal moments for me in my business career.
That's fascinating. And I want all of our listeners and subscribers to just take a moment and think about what Sean said there. At our company, you know, we talk about adapting sales pitches to personality types, right? Yeah. So Trump is a guy, he wants a napkin version. You better not confuse him with all the details. Get to the point, be punchy about it. You know, talk about the benefits immediately, put it on one page, like you said. Yeah. You know, if you're pitching to somebody else who needs the details, then adapt, right? But what a valuable learning lesson. Like,
it's huge for me, man. Number one, because I had the balls to do it, right? I think back on that and I kind of chuckle and I laugh and it's just funny to me. But the flip side of that is, like, if you don't have the audacity to go out and do something, you're never going to do anything. Right. But I definitely learned a lesson in that and I think back over the last 20 years or so, the hardest parts for me, like the most complicated parts of my business career have been when I've created more complexity. And really, it's way more fun, like streamlining and making things really, really, really simple. So for me, that was a huge, huge, huge lesson for me.
Man, incredible. Thank you for breaking that down. Here's a question. Do you remember the best business advice you ever received?
The best advice that I've ever been given was from my mom. And this transcends everything. This transcends life, relationships, marriage, business, the whole thing. Remember who you are. She used to tell me that every day before I left for school. And it rings in my head every single day. I just hear it over and over and over in my head. Remember who you are. And I think that's a very, very powerful aspect of business is a lot of people are trying to be somebody that they're not. You talk about lions, not sheep, and how did we grow? And how do I have over 1 billion views in my videos? I have literally over 1 billion views with a cell phone, right? Just iPhone videos. How? Why? I think it's just because I got to a place where, well, let me rephrase that. I know it's because I got to a place where I just didn't give a fuck anymore. I quit lying. I quit pretending. I quit trying to be like everybody else. And I just started to be Sean Whalen. And it was a really pivotal moment for me because it's the easiest place to be is just be yourself. It's the most fun place to be. It's also the most lucrative place to be. So I think the best business advice that I've ever been given was remember who you are.
Funny you mentioned the best advice you received was, be yourself. We're finding out this is really interesting. I'm really paying attention to, frequency, vibration, this type of stuff. When people talk about manifestation, visualization, what they're discovering now is the highest frequency that you can emit as a human is the frequency of, well, gratitude's important. Those are very high frequencies and love, etc. The highest frequency that you can actually generate as a human is authenticity. They're actually, the science is catching up to that. So there's so much value in the advice to stay authentic, be true to yourself, and look what happens, right? You become Sean Whalen, and you're getting 1 billion views, right? So I don't know why it happens, around 40, Sean. It just seems to happen around 40 for a lot of us. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys, there's two things with that. Number one, that word, it drives me nuts because it's so misconstrued, authenticity, right? But if you really think about it, I was 30 years old. I was a self-made multimillionaire. I had all the cars, the houses, the whole thing, and I burned my life to the ground. I literally had a midlife crisis where I left everything. I left my marriage. I left my business. I stuck my head up my ass for 2 years, just trying to figure out why I was even alive. Not how to make my next million, but it was why the am I on this rock? There's this rock that's flying through the cosmos. Why am I here? Not part of this culture. Why is Sean Whalen on this rock? And I realized most of my life I was lying. And we were programmed that way. I mean, if you really think about it, I don't care if you're in Canada, US, doesn't matter. We were programmed to lie. And a lot of people don't understand this. They don't think about this because you think your parents are bad. Your parents weren't bad. Your parents did the best that they could with what they knew, right? But ever since you were a little kid, you've been programmed to lie. Don't say anything that's going to piss anybody off. If you got to go to the bathroom, raise your hand. You got to get permission. You're programmed as a little child to do as you're told. You know what I'm saying? Here's what's good. Here's what's bad. If you were raised in a religious environment, if you do these things, you go to heaven. If you do these things, you're going to go to hell. So as a little kid, you're kind of walking on eggshells going, shit, I don't want to make anybody mad. I don't want to say anything that's going to piss anybody off. Oh, but I have huge dreams. I want to go be an astronaut, but dad says I got to go to college and get a real job. So I'm just going to do that, right? And here's an entire culture of people that have been told since they were little kids to dream and to go big and to live this life. But the reality is you're watching your parents hate their life, hate who they are, and lie. And so we just turn into liars. How you feeling? I'm feeling good. And the next thing you know, your neighbor blows his brains out. And you're like, what the fuck? Bob just told me yesterday he was good. Well, Bob didn't know how to tell you the truth because we don't do that. Mm-hmm. If you ask your friends, how you doing? Oh, I'm good, man. And then all of a sudden you find out he's getting a divorce or he's over here because we don't know how to tell the truth. And this is really this has been a pivotal thing for me and for the movement of Lions Not Sheep. And I think the movement, when you talk authenticity, that light bulb went on in my head because I shared about 10 years ago, a post that went viral. It was the very first post that ever went viral. And the long and the short of it is I did something on social media that I had never done before. I told the truth. I sat down one night and I literally just wrote out this post and I just stopped lying. And I talked about my divorce and I talked about my bankruptcy and I talked about the depression and I talked about how angry I was and I talked about how sad I was and how pissed off I was. And I didn't blame anybody. It was the first time where I was just like, here's my truth. I'm angry. I have anger issues. I'm sad. I have darkness. I've been suicidal. And dude, it went viral. Like, this isn't like the pretty story and look at my face and look at how awesome we are and look at our kids at Disneyland. Like, this is darkness. This is like, but I learned two things in this and through this experience. And for the last 10 years, this has been my journey. Number one, I realized that so many people were attracted to it because it was real. You're normally used to these dudes like, here's the perfect lighting and the perfect flex and the perfect angle and the perfect thing and all of my growth numbers, none of my down numbers. And you're just so accustomed to that people don't vibe with it anymore. And then all of a sudden somebody comes along and smacks you in the face with some real shit. And you're like, what the fuck was that? Like, that's that alpha guy talking about he's depressed and he's suicidal. What the fuck? Right? And so people resonated with it because guess what? Everybody's dealing with it. Everybody's trying to figure out life. Everybody's got kids and depression. And there's not a single person listening to this podcast that doesn't have dark days. No one. But there's two types of people. One who tells the truth and the other one who says that they don't have it. That's just really the simple reality of it. So that was the first lesson for me is like millions of people resonated with my real. I was like, well, okay, well, I'll just keep doing that. And then the second thing that I learned from this post, which has really led to this entire movement, led to everything, was I realized I felt better. Like all of us want to feel better, right? Some of us sedate, some of us do drugs, some of us drink, whatever. Some of us go make a bunch of money, but everybody wants to feel better. We just go about it different ways. And so I realized like, well, if me sharing my real authenticity, my darkness, call it whatever you want, led to millions of people watching me and led to me feeling better, then I'll just go ahead and keep doing that. And so literally it became my quest of like, I didn't filter anything. It's fascinating how people gravitate towards that because there's so little of it in the marketplace. And so as I work with people and my clients and thousands of people I coach around the world, I'm like, give people real shit. That's what they're starving for. They're like, well, Sean, it's going to hurt my business. Like, no, it's going to blow your business up. That's what you don't understand. And so it's a fascinating experience to watch people wrestle with this idea, like I really want to be liked and loved by everybody for being a liar, when the reality is you're going to be liked and loved for being real. You're going to make more money and you're going to feel better.
What a fascinating breakdown. I do appreciate that because like you said, you're a pretty outspoken guy. You're seen as, an alpha, very strong-willed dude, right? Successful. And when you speak about your vices, your depressions, your sadness, your failures, it resonates with people because they're afraid to say it. So when you say something out loud, it resonates. That's why it makes such an impact. Yeah. And I think it's refreshing to see guys like yourself. We had, again, a long conversation with Andy Frisella about this because he went through a really dark period there. Well, he's Andy,
open about it.
Yeah, he's been very open about it. And I really appreciated him. We did a large segment on that. And I thought it was really helpful. It was refreshing. And it was just something there's one thing to be, have a testosterone driven message about being a man, but also, let's be real about it. It's okay to feel, have ups and downs. It's working through those. And however you do that, what you did was probably cathartic in a way, but it also benefited a lot of people. Yeah. Okay, let's get into Lions Not Sheep now. This is what I really wanted to talk to you about. It's incredible. It's a large movement now. How and when the idea of Lions Not Sheep come to you? What was the inspiration behind this movement and this brand?
So Lions Not Sheep came to me during this darkness, during this period. It wasn't a clothing company. It wasn't a coaching thing. I was still flipping real estate, doing my deal. And it came to me one day and it just wouldn't leave. And I kept seeing it and visualizing it. And it took on a life for me. It became a mantra for me. And I realized that I had lived 35 years, 36 years of my life as a sheep. I did what I was told to do. I said what I was, told to say, and I hated it. I hated who I was. I hated where I was. And I realized that, I had two options, to be a lion or to be a sheep. People ask me, well, what does Lions Not Sheep mean? I'm like, what do you think it means? They're like, to be a lion, not a sheep. I'm like, bingo. It's literally that simple because these two creatures go about life very differently. A lion lays under a tree and does whatever the fuck he wants, where a sheep is like always just in this scared pack and one little spook and they all run over here and over there and whatever. And so I realized that I had lived most of my life as that reality. And so it became this personal mantra for me. And a while later, I called one of my buddies who owns a t-shirt company. I was like, you want to make this into a t-shirt, right? I'm not trying to start an apparel company. It wasn't even on my radar. I just had this vision to just put it on a sheet. And the three words that you see, lions, not sheep. He's like, all right, go to fonts.com, pick out a font, send me the font, and we'll put it on a t-shirt. I picked out the font that you see now and sent it to him and made a t-shirt. And I only made one t-shirt. And I just wore it. It just kind of became my thing. And like, this is before social media blew up. This is before any of that stuff. It was my own personal reality. And one day somebody saw it on Facebook. And as obviously Facebook started to blow up for me and social media started to blow up, people started saying, oh, where'd you get that shirt? Where'd you get that shirt? Like, how do I get that shirt? And I called my buddy. I'm like, people want this shirt. And they're like, well, sell them the shirt. And so literally we created a little portal to his website. Where it wasn't even lions.sheep.com. I didn't own the domain. I didn't own any of it. It wasn't trademarked. And people would just go and they'd buy a shirt and he'd give me like $3 or $4 for every shirt that we sold. And as it went on and on and on and on, I realized there was something to it. And as my message grew, it was really the pivotal foundation behind the message. So, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2016, I incorporated it and I just started to see that there was more to this. And so I was like literally coaching people, but I didn't have a coaching group. I would just spend hours on the phone with people, helping them all day long and showing them what I was doing and these meditations and the books and the things and the whole deal. And as it started to grow, I realized that there was something to it. And so we started, our own little Shopify store and started going and growing it a little bit. And I officially started coaching people and started a coaching company as like just literally this little teeny idea, and I had good people around me, which was awesome. They're like, dude, this is a big thing. Like people are drawn to it. They're drawn to you. They're drawn to this message and this quote unquote authenticity. Give them an opportunity to come participate with you. Cause I looked at coaching like, this is dumb. Why would I pay somebody to tell me what to do? Like I've been a self-made multimillionaire. What are you going to teach me? I just had a massive ego. And then I started to really understand it and it's exploded since then. So, in 2020, prior to 2020, my mom was basically making all of our gear. Like I think we'd sell like 10 shirts a month kind of a thing, just organically. People would see me wearing it, whatever. We only had one t-shirt, the whole thing. And in 2020, we officially started the apparel company. And by that, I was like, look, man, we could build something big off of this. And we went from zero, literally like $1,000 a month to $1 million a month in sales within 6 months. And it's just exploded and grown. And it's been a wild experience, but really cool at the same time.
Yeah, very cool. It started with the power of words, right?
Yeah,
started as a phrase, and we've seen the evolution of it over the years. Yeah. For those that are unfamiliar, maybe just digging a little deeper on this, the core principles of Lions Not Sheep. Can you describe those?
Yeah. So I hired a coach when I was going through my shit, and he taught me what we call now Core 4, which is power, passion, purpose, and production. Power your body, passion, relationships, purpose, your mindset, your spirituality, and production, your business. And I was the guy who would literally wake up, drink my coffee, and just go smash my day, right? I mean, like most dudes. I'm running, going crazy. I got this call and this meeting and this thing. And at the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired, but what did I get done? Like, I don't really know. Core 4 really framed everything for me. It helped me see like there's a really simple way to be able to organize, but still accomplish a ton, right? And so as I started practicing this and understanding this became my foundation. And it became literally what I wrote about in my book was Core 4, which is what I learned from my coach. And my coach learned it from his coach. And his coach learned it from Steve Covey, who, has been talking about 4 core for 30 something years. And that became really the foundation of the message is Core 4. And it's a way of being. It's not some program like, do you have this program or that program or how do I get organized or whatever? It's literally my life. It is how I operate. It's not a system or a way. It's literally a way of being. And that's what I think is really cool about it and really cool and unique about Lions Not Sheep is, if you want ClickFunnels, you know how to go get ClickFunnels. If you want a website, you know how to get a website and all this other stuff. But how do you live? How do you get rid of the chaos, get rid of the drama, get rid of the bags, but grow a big business and still have the family relationship and still be there for the kids? How do you do all that, right? You want to be an entrepreneur, you just got to beat the shit out of yourself, drag your ass through glass, and then maybe you'll retire and you'll have a bunch of money. It's like, that's dumb. Why do I want to wait till I'm 65 to ride jet skis? I want to ride jet skis now. My kids are young. They're in school now. They're playing soccer and hockey and football now. I could miss all that shit for 20 years to do what? Give them a bunch of money, and I'm like running myself ragged. It doesn't make any sense. And so Core 4 is really at the foundation and the true nature of what Lions Not Sheep is. It's learning to be able to lead your own life. It's seeing the vision that you've got, identifying where you want to go and going there. You know, I'm a big hunter. And I always talk about it like this. Like if you were going to go hunt a deer, you know, and you got a deer at 300 yards, if you come up with a 12 gauge and you're just bang, 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 you're never going to kill the deer, right? That's how I was living my life. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, bang, bang, I'm just trying to shoot all of these things. And at the end of the day, I'm just tired as I'm not accomplishing anything. And you see this today. This is why more men are killing themselves than ever before. This is why male suicide is at an all-time high. This is why kids are totally why families are totally because dads are just showing up, running themselves ragged, not realizing that's a stupid plan. And so what I found is like, well, if I want to go hunting, why don't I just pick up a sniper rifle and just one shot, one kill? So my production, my business, here's my target, bang, I hit it. My fitness, you know, how many times have you been to the gym and you see the dude with the towel over his shoulder and he's like, oh, he's just kind of wandering around and maybe does 3 minutes on the elliptical and does a few curls. That dude looks the same year after year after year. He never gets in shape. I go into the gym and I'm a fucking maniac. I'm only there for 45 minutes. But I know every lift, every deal, bang, 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 in and out, done. You know what I'm saying? So all these excuses and people like, I got kids, I got kids, I got bills. Like just because I'm super handsome doesn't mean AT&T gave me a free fucking phone. I got to pay for this. I got to put gas in my car just like y'all. You understand what I'm saying? So this idea that somehow it's this mystical, magical way. No, I figured out a way to do this. And it's called Core 4. And it's controlling your life. You understand what I'm saying? That's what's at the foundation of what Lions Not Sheep really is.
Well, we could clip that and put that out, and I think everybody who listens to that would sign up tomorrow. You know,
Well, dude, but what's interesting is our age. I mean, you and I are almost the same age, right?
Yeah.
We weren't programmed that way.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Like that's not what we were taught. We were taught like, and even today, there's a lot of people that have this misconception that you got to like grind your ass to the ground to make it big. I don't believe that. You got to work hard. You got to go hard. But dude, the idea that you have to sacrifice your marriage, sacrifice your body, sacrifice your children is a lie. And what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of men, like you asked a question earlier, you know, 40, 45, 50 years old that are kind of going like, I got the house, I got the cars, I got the kids, I got the family, word, this is it. Like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Like, I'm going to keep working for the man, making $227,000 a year, like grinding my ass to the bone. Like, this is it. This is the American dream. No, it's not. And I think that's why so many people are waking up and so many people are attracted to Lions Not Sheep and the message. Because it's like, look, man, I'm not special. There's no silver. I just figured it out. You know what I mean? So for me now, it's like, it's really, you know this, you know, you talk to a lot of high level people and a lot of entrepreneurs, like, look at what a lot of these guys are doing. Look at where a lot of these dudes, look at like Grant Cardone, a lot of these other dudes, like they'll tell you, you got to work your ass hard, but man, if you sacrifice your family, you sacrifice your health, and there's a lot of people that are doing very, very, very well that are teaching that and showing you that. And I think it's a really, really, really smart thing for some of these younger pups to listen the fuck up and realize that we've been in the trenches maybe 10, 15, 20 years longer than you. We know a little bit. We've been around the block a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So take some of the knowledge and the wisdom from the mothers that have been in the game for a bit and do it better than we did it. You know what I mean?
That's another clip, Sean. No, I'm serious, dude.
My highlight reel, cuz.
That's the highlight reel. We just had Grant on again. I think it was his third time on the show recently. Yeah. The guy's phenomenal. Like, you know, I know he's kind of a polarizing guy, but I've never seen someone market like him. Are you a new real estate agent or thinking about getting a real estate license? If so, you're going to want to ask about the Greater Property Group's Agent Scholarship Program. Why pay for the cost of the course yourself when the Greater Property Group will subsidize the cost for you? Make sure you reach out and get all the details on the Greater Property Group's Agent Scholarship Program.
Listen, but one of the other things to think about too, and I mean, dude, I don't want to like steal the direction, but like a lot of people need to realize that nobody's like, we think we're a big deal, right? We're not. We're really not.
No,
like, people have their lives and their kids and their things. That, I mean, I'll give you $1 million right now if you can tell me what I posted on July 27th without looking. What did I post January 4th? Yeah. Without looking? You can't. You don't remember the shit I posted. Well, I think you posted a picture of your dog, maybe. I don't know. Name one thing that Grant posted three months ago. You can't. Our attention span, like that's what people got to realize is we're living in fear, thinking all these people are going to judge us and watch us. They are going to judge you for like 3 seconds, and then they're going to be on to something else. So you might as well build your fucking life. That's something Grant and I vibe on. I love Grant. I love Elena. They're great friends, and like we talk to them all the time, and I see them all. And it's like you got to understand, like, the clock is ticking, and every day that you like sit on your ass and cry and whine and play small, you're just wasting your fucking life for a bunch of people that really don't give a fuck about you. They really don't care about you. So you might as well go all in and really live a fun life. And I think Grant is he's the antithesis of that. He lives that to the fullest.
Grant's the best. And you know what? Like every time I interview him, he's zeroed in on the interview, like, which I really appreciate. He's so zeroed in. I appreciate him. And he looks fantastic for 60.
Looks good.
Yeah, he looks fantastic. I wanted to ask you about this. I want to get your perspective on it. You touched on leadership specifically. In your opinion, what are the key qualities to an effective leader, both business and your personal life?
You have to believe in yourself and believe in your vision when it seems insane. When no one else sees it. Like when you can see something and no one else sees it, a true leader will continue forward. Like Steve Jobs, leader. He saw something that no one else saw and made it reality, and it became literally something that changed the world, right? I saw something that nobody else saw and turned it into reality. And that's what I think the true antithesis of a leader is in a business sense, is someone who can see something and believe in it, see it, feel it, taste it so much that they're willing to literally do anything and everything that they can to make it reality. On a personal level, you have to live it, man. I've said this 1,000 times and I'll say it 1,000 times more. I don't remember a lot of the things that my dad told me, but I remember what he showed me. And so I want to be a father that shows his kids a man living his dreams, not talking about living my dreams, but living my dreams. I want to show my sons a savage, which is why I go to the gym and I get jacked, right? I work out with my boys and we're talking 6-packs and lifting, right? I show my sons that. I show my daughter how it is to be treated like a queen. I open the door for her. I teach her the things, right? I show them a healthy relationship. When my wife and I get into conflict, we resolve it. That's real leadership.
Profound advice, Sean. Profound. I think everybody needs to pay attention to that. It's well said. Very well said. One more question about lions, not sheep and entrepreneurship, and then we'll wrap up with a little bit of personal development there. But in the face of societal pressures, right, expectations, how can entrepreneurs stay true to their vision and their values while navigating the business world? You said they need to do it. Stay true to the vision, stay on track. How do you do that?
You do it. You keep your word. It's really that simple. There is no magic bullet to this, man. Be a man of honor. What so few men understand is that like nobody's going to do it for you. Like no one's going to make you a man of honor. And it might mean that you have to rewrite your entire story, your entire narrative. My dad was an alcoholic. He left before I got up in the morning. He came home like after the sun went down. The first thing he did, he's got drunk. That's what I was raised. That's what I knew. That was my upbringing. So I have two choices. I can be like, oh, that's the way that I'm going to go and be mad, or say, no, I'm going to chart a different course. And it's up to every man listening here. What do you want? Who the fuck are you? You're not here to be like Sean Whalen or be like Grant or be like Andy Priscilla or be like Ed Milet. Be you. Plant your own flag and defend it with honor.
I'm clipping that one too, Sean.
There you go.
That's a must listen for all leaders. It's a must listen. Extreme ownership. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask you a question about, mindset, but I feel like this whole interview has been one big conversation about mindset. So I'm not going to ask you about that. But what I am going to ask you about is your personal approach to, mindset in your life. Like, how do you approach personal development in your own life? Like, what practices, habits, and routines are particularly impactful for you specifically? Like, how do you maintain mental, emotional, physical well-being, especially in high stress situations?
I'm a huge advocate of a morning ritual and a morning routine. It's not very difficult. It's very simple. I get up. The first thing I do is gratitude. I literally walk to my window. I thank God for another day. Like I start my day. The very first thing that I do is with gratitude, because it's like there's some poor sack who didn't wake up today. At the end of the day, I'm laying in my bed. I might have the day. I'm like, thank you, God, for another day. I'm going to get up in the morning, God willing. We're going to fight it again. We're going to go at it again. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's my antithesis. That's what's rooted deeply in my DNA is gratitude.
Man, I love that. I find that the most successful, driven people do have a daily gratitude practice. I think it's essential. Essential. Okay, going to wrap up with a couple questions here. One is we used to ask a question about legacy. Have you thought about your legacy, all that stuff? We're not doing that. Now we're talking about purpose a little bit more. And I want to read you the definition of a Japanese word for purpose. Have you heard of this? Ikigai. Have you heard this word?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to read the definition. Ikigai is a concept that combines the two words, iki, meaning life, and gai, meaning value or worth. It refers to the reason for being, the thing that gives one a sense of meaning and fulfillment in life. Finding one's ikigai often involves identifying what one loves, what one is good at, and what the world needs, and one can be paid for. And the intersection of these elements is considered one's purpose or ikigai. So the question here, inspired by the meaning of the word ikigai, have you found your purpose, and what advice would you have for someone trying to find their passion and purpose in life?
I realized every single time that I was dealing with depression, I was looking behind me. And every single time I was dealing with anxiety, I was worried about tomorrow, and neither of them exist. They're not real. Every single time I found extreme peace, vision, revelation, and a self-worth was in a singular moment, not tomorrow and not yesterday. And like the light bulb went on in my head. I was like, my purpose isn't tomorrow. It's not to be a good dad. It's not to be the visionary. It's not to be the leader. I have a singular purpose, and it's to live in one moment. And it's really fun because I catch myself really easily. If I'm stressed, it's tomorrow. If I have anxiety or depression, I know exactly where I am, and I get to bring myself right back to this reality. And that's where that gratitude comes in. And so the entire antithesis of my life is to live in a singular moment. That's my purpose.
It gave me chills. First of all, I've never heard such a definitive answer on purpose in my life. I can't thank you enough for breaking that down. Two final questions. These are fun ones though, Sean. These are fun. Okay.
These are all fun, man. I love it.
If you could have dinner with any three people in history, past or present, who would they be and why?
My grandfather, because he was a war veteran, and I was too young when he died to truly understand what he did. He was a very noble man, and somebody I would love to sit down and have dinner with. I would love to sit down and have dinner with Jesus, for obvious reasons. And I would love to sit down and have dinner with Hitler. Hitler has always been a fascinating creature to me, which is ironic. You got Jesus and Hitler in the same thing, but I would love to know what was truly in that man's mind. So those are the three people: my grandfather, Jesus, and Hitler. Very eclectic mix. It's
a very eclectic mix, but I got to tell you, Sean, we've had Hitler come up, I don't know how many times in the last half dozen episodes. Moby, I don't know if you know who Moby is. Yeah. So we recorded with him last week. He mentioned Hitler of all people. Andy Frisella mentioned Hitler. I remember that specifically. I've heard his name come up in a dinner table a few times now. So
I think there's a reason why, and it's probably not why people think, because initially you hear that word, you hear the name, and you're drawn to a negative thing. But he's a fascinating creature. What he did and how he did what he did was really, really, really fascinating.
And why he did it.
If you really think about it, him and Jesus, their realities, not who they were as people and the whole thing, but Jesus had a really interesting mission and did some incredible things that billions of people have followed for years and years and years and years, right? He got billions of people to follow a message. Adolf Hitler got millions of people to follow a very, very, very contrasting message, which is really fascinating to me. I have a marketing mind. You know what I mean?
Same.
What's behind, late night infomercials are fascinating to me. I'll watch them and I'm like, that's what you're trying to do. That's where you're going with this. So I would love to sit with him and figure that part out. But yeah, those three would be top of my list.
No, absolutely. We hear that name quite a bit. Okay. Here's another question. Final question. You're opening a bottle of champagne 1 year from now, celebrating something you've accomplished. What would that be?
selling my tech company, Jadari. Selling Jadari. It's
Okay.
it's the path that we're on right now. We're building it. I haven't shied away from that conversation. We built a really phenomenal community platform called Jadari. I built it for myself, for my coaching group, because I got a couple thousand people, and I got sick of getting shut down on Facebook. I got sick of all these other half-assed Discord and Circle and Passion.io. And so I built my own platform. It's called Jadari. And we have over 100,000 users on it right now, and it's growing like crazy. So if I'm popping a bottle in a year, we probably won't sell it in a year. It might be a little bit longer than that, but we will sell it. And that would be, if it's less than a year, like buying champagne for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what I would be celebrating and toasting to.
Wow, fantastic. Well deserved. So Sean, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. Really compelling conversation. Extremely motivational. That was one of the most, it was an intense conversation for me, but it was good to get you to know your story in a little bit more detail. It was inspiring for sure. So great interview. Thanks again. Okay, fantastic.
Beautiful. Okay, man.
Take the rest of the day off, Sean.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, brother. Peace.
Cheers. Bye.